Time now for the Boyd Epley Award for Lifetime Achievement. This award, sponsored by Gatorade, is given in recognition of a long line of achievements in the profession and a history of dedication to the association. This year's winner comes from a long line of achievement in the strength and conditioning industry. And I'd like to ask Coach Boyd Epley to come on up and make this presentation of the award. Boyd? All you.
Well, it's truly my pleasure to honor the life achievements of Coach Jerry Martin. His innovative approach and legendary coaching has impacted so many young strength coaches. We had such an outpouring of video submissions that we're only going to be able to show a portion of those tonight. You can view the full tribute online at nsca.com/awards. Now let's take a look at why Coach Jerry Martin has earned this prestigious award.
Congratulations, Coach Martin, on this huge honor. Just a quick memory from when my time at UConn with you was one day as a sophomore, I was in squatting and you didn't have how many reps I needed to do. So I asked you and you looked at me like I was an idiot, like most times, and said, how many reps is it going to take to beat Rutgers? And I had no idea. So he said, keep lifting until I can't lift anymore. And that little bitty lesson he taught me about life, it's about the journey and the work and the sacrifice day in, day out, has paid off immensely, not only as an athlete and as a man, but also as a teacher now.
Jerry Martin and I go back a long way. We go teammates at Syracuse University back in the late 70s. And then I had the opportunity to go to UConn as the head coach. Jerry was there as the strength and conditioning coordinator for all sports. But I knew how Jerry was and just how dedicated and how passionate he was for football. I ended up bringing him to the football side, and then the rest is kind of history. The success that we had at the University of Connecticut, going from a 1AA program to a BCS program and all the way to the Fiesta Bowl, was really due in part to Jerry Martin and the work that he did with our student athletes with strength and conditioning.
Coach Martin, this is Mike Nitka from Muskego High School in Wisconsin. Talk with you soon. Stay strong, my friend.
Brilliant, ladies. Brilliant. Brilliant.
You know, when I take the time to think about what a Lifetime Achievement Award means, it must mean you must have impacted a lot of people in your life. And I know for sure that I'm one of those people.
No one that I've come across in my life or my career more deserving of this award than yourself. During my time at UConn, it was easy to work for you. As difficult and as hard as those workouts were that you put us through, they were easy to do because we knew that you were going through them with us. Whether you had done it literally at some point beforehand or you were going to do them with us, we knew that you were so committed to what we were doing, it was easy to do with you.
Coach Martin, your hard work and dedication, not only in the weight room, but as I was able to experience in the classroom as well, definitely did not go unnoticed. You pushed us to be great teammates, but also great men and great leaders in the community. I thank you for all that you have done and continue to do for me and the lessons that you've instilled in me over time.
I mean, when we all got to UConn 2001, we all had a plan and a vision on being something successful, and you were in that process with us, and you made a difference. You made us mentally stronger. You obviously made us stronger. And every time I think back about school, I always think about Coach Martin.
You built that strength program up at the University of Connecticut into one of the best in the country, and helped develop some of the world's best athletes.
There's rarely a day that goes by in my career where I don't draw on a lesson that you've taught me. A specific example of that is when this opportunity came available at Central Washington University, one of the first things I thought of was the pictures you showed me of the weight room when you started the program at Connecticut, and that was a chance for me to do the same thing and follow in your footsteps and to start a program in my home state.
You have always led as an innovator with incredible ideas, using velocity-based training when nobody called it that or nobody really knew what that was, using digital programming, and in your facility designs. You always shared your ideas, your knowledge, and your wisdom, mentoring countless young strength coaches who are continuing on your legacy today.
One thing that comes to mind when I think about Coach Martin is his no-nonsense attitude and his work ethic. When we're in the gym, he didn't want to play games, he didn't want to listen to music, he didn't want to small talk. He wanted to get the work done. That's something I always respected about him and admired.
And essentially giving my first opportunity, and I wouldn't be the coach that I am now. I wouldn't even be in the position that I am now without his help, his guidance, and more importantly, his time that he invested in me.
You were the one in all those tough days giving us those mental messages to keep pushing through and preparing us for the tough moments that we were going to have in the games. But little did I know that you're preparing us for those tough moments that we're going to have in life.
I remember my freshman year summer workouts. We're running sprints with coach, as we always did. Guy pulls a hamstring. Looks like it hurt. He's grimacing in pain, hobbling across the line. Next thing you know, he gets down in the stance again, and he's still running with us. It was from that point on that I knew A, this guy's absolutely nuts, and B, never to be a quitter. Thanks, Coach.
But your ingenuity, your innovation, your tireless efforts are really second to none and something we could all certainly emulate. Most of all, Jerry, what I appreciate is you've done it over the years with authenticity, with class, with dignity, and with honor, and above all else, with the utmost character.
I said, Coach, how many reps do we have to do? And you looked at me with a straight face and you said, do it until you see Jesus.
So without a doubt, you have a legacy right now, and you have former athletes that are scattered all across the nation who are doing some amazing things as successful professionals. And a lot of that can be credited to what they learned with you.
And when I think about the situation that you're in now, I just want you to fight and fight and fight until you see Jesus.
Many years ago, 20 years ago, you brought us all together on top of a mountain in San Diego. And we put our arms around everybody's shoulder. And you said, what's important now? Do you remember that?
Yep.
Win. What's important now? You know what's important now, Jer? What's important now is you realize how much support all these people are for you. You and Diane. What's important now? If you need any energy, any help, if you need any support at all, look around in everybody's eyes. You got a family bigger than you'll ever know. We all love you, big fella. To me, you're my hero. You're the coach, the best coach that I've ever been around. You inspired me so much. So I'm glad that all these people could come. I am so sorry that I couldn't be there. I wish I was. So what's important now, Jer, is put your arms around everybody and feel the love that's coming out for you. We all love you, big fella.
Dr. Kramer and Coach Martin were pioneers in this industry, and let's get a few words from Dr. Kramer.
Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests and award winners, Coach Hatch, Coach Martin, Mrs. Martin, and the Martin family, it's an extreme pleasure for me to say a few words. I want to give you some context for the amazing career of Coach Jerry Martin. I had the honor of knowing Coach Martin 30 years ago and working with him for the last 13 years. And he is a humble man and one who stands above so many for his thoughtful insights, organization, but most importantly, for his translating science into practice and of strength and conditioning. And he loves working with his athletes. I first met Jerry when I was teaching a graduate muscle physiology class when I was an adjunct professor at UConn back in 1985. When I asked him why he took the class, I remember he said, "I want to know more than just the sets and reps." And so it went. Well, tonight I'm reminded by many quotes, some from one of my favorite musicals, Camelot, as well as my experience growing up in Green Bay from Vince Lombardi's Green Bay Packers, so excuse me. But there are a lot of parallels with Coach Martin. King Arthur said, "All we've been through, nothing but an idea." Well, yes, Coach, it was a crazy idea to try to marry intercollegiate athletics and academics, but we did this with the development of an integrated strength and conditioning program, both at the undergraduate and master's level, and we trained and mentored coaches in what they needed to know. Coach Martin once said, "If you're not good enough to take on the rigors of science, you're not good enough to be a strength coach." He was a great mentor to his assistant coaches from my observations and allowed them to claim their own success. He challenged them, he argued points of view, but he always gave them the ability to create their programs for the teams they worked with under his tutelage. His staff applied science in the programs they used, and he trained our athletes with the cutting-edge programs needed and supported a research-driven type of program. Now, Vince Lombardi once said, "Perfection's not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence." Coach Martin did this. Our program excelled and was reflected by the use of science and technology by his coaching staff to develop the cutting-edge programs needed to compete at the Division I level today. This was typified, for example, by Coach Andrea Hootie and the work she did to prove the efficacy of flexible nonlinear periodization in training our elite basketball teams. He not only liked science, but he wanted to do science. It's a rare commodity in today's field of sport coaches, where so many coaches like the concept of science and the technology, but don't want to do science. He was willing to change when the data and the science said otherwise. He developed more players to their potential than anyone I've ever seen. Interestingly, our recruitment classes were always at the bottom part of the then Big East Conference, and he lifted his players to the physical dimensions that allowed them to compete at championship levels, and actually sent many on to the NFL from UConn. Really? Once there was a fleeting wisp of glory called Camelot. Yes, the program we designed at UConn is no more. I'm at the Ohio State University now, where our program moved. But the model of integrating athletic strength and conditioning with academics and kinesiology lives for others to pursue, and many of you have. My warning to you all is be cautious of leaders who do not value history, nor excellence, nor accomplishment. Don't let it be forgot there was once a spot for one brief shining moment that was known as Camelot. Coach Martin developed the program with a legacy of accomplishment, innovation, mentorship, leadership in the field that will be matched by few. Coach Martin is truly a Renaissance man in our field, a man of honor, courage, dignity, who exemplifies, more than anyone I know, the NSCA credo of bridging the gap from laboratory to the field. To end, Vince Lombardi also had another saying that I think typifies Coach Martin. After all the cheers have died down and the stadium's empty, after the headlines have been written, and after you're back in the quiet of your room and the championship ring has been placed on the dresser, and after all the pomp and fanfare have faded, the enduring thing that is left is the dedication to doing with our lives the very best we can to make a world a better place in which we live. And so Coach Martin has done. I'm honored to have worked with him, but more honored to have been his friend. Congratulations, Coach Martin, for your award.
We'll get him back. At this time, I'd like to call up Roger Marandino to the podium. He had the opportunity to study under Coach Martin. Roger's had an amazing career in his own right, very distinguished in both the NCAA level and in the NFL, currently with the Indianapolis Colts. Please welcome Roger Marandino.
Wow. It's quite an honor. It's a 20-year trip. I'll do my best. But I love you, buddy. Okay, to the profession. I want to thank you for that. I met Jerry NSCA conference in Las Vegas, I think in 1993. And I was interviewing for a job, and he's videotaping me. And I'm like, wow, what an intense, passionate human being. And we go through the interview, and I had a couple others, and I talked to my mother. I said, if I get a chance to work with that guy, we're going to do some special things, you know. But moving on, what did he allow me to do? He set up a format there at the University of Connecticut that allowed you to become a fanatic. You know, I was a high school football player and competitive powerlifter at the time, and wow, what an idea. You can get there, you can go to school, you can study. This was before all the formats of today. We didn't have any curriculum that geared you towards strength and conditioning, and there I was every day with the greatest boss in the world. He pushed me. We would have literature reviews where you'd stand up in front of the whole staff and you'd ask, why? Why are you doing this? And to note on what Doc Kramer said, he had a saying, you never had any business teaching somebody else something if you didn't know why you were doing it. And that meant you had to do your research. So at night, you know, myself, Andrea, Mike Hooker, we'd all go over to the library. And again, here's a kid from New Jersey that couldn't wait to get to the library. It was pretty much before the internet. I knew I'd turn the page to being the person I wanted to be. When I get there on a Friday, and I got the best parking spot I'd ever gotten, I was amazed. And I walk into the door, and I walk right into it because I was so tired from working the hours. And it says library closes at 9 on Fridays. So that's when I knew I became an official nerd. You know, we didn't go to a weight room, and I really don't have any knock on that, because I started in the weight room at age 13 at a YMCA, and you know, even when we answered the phone, it was strength facility. So he added class, research-based. He wanted to know your empirical observations. We always trained with the athletes. It's something we did, so it's really awesome to hear the players talk about that. So I go through an interview while I'm driving down the Schuylkill Expressway for the Colts job, and they said, you know, what is your philosophy? And I didn't know how to answer it. So I took a moment and I said, I'm a classically trained strength coach. I said, you know, we looked at the research, we used empirical observation, we did it ourselves most of the time, sometimes too much, because we all grew up in the Rocky era where more was better. And I owe that all of that to him. It wasn't good enough just to be strong. It wasn't good enough just to be in condition. It wasn't good enough if you could run the most sprints. You also had to know how to explain it and back it up with several reviewed articles. The second thing I'd like to talk about is, and it really doesn't get talked about enough, is his contribution to women's athletics. Again, you know, when I left Connecticut, I interviewed at Brown University. I was there for 16 years. And that's where the Title IX lawsuit started. And I really couldn't understand all the questions they were asking, which shed a negative light onto women's athletics, because we had such a fantastic experience there. And while I was there the first year, the women's basketball, we lost in the Final Four, and then we all got together and we said, we're going to win this thing next year. And we were 34-0, won the very first one there. We lost in the preseason, but we don't talk about that. But much more important than that was that group of athletes is still the benchmark by any group of athletes I measure against. It's not even close. We didn't have to worry about somebody being late, somebody being, you know, they took care of that. It was how are we going to pull the reins back when we get too close to the edge. That's all we talked about. Personally, I'd like to thank him. My family would like to thank him. I wouldn't have made it out. Back then, you know, I think the first year I made like, you know, a little over $4,000. And I'm sitting there thinking how poor I was, and now I know how rich I was. You know, I live in Indianapolis now, and I'm watching these construction workers yesterday when I'm packing up and leaving, and I'm thinking about it. We got off the phone. I said, man, not that that's a bad profession, but it's a hard one. And that would have very easily been me. It could have been me. And I want to thank your family, because I know, everybody here knows how many hours you have to put in away from your family, and that alone makes a special man. Those of you that know Jerry, there aren't too many I love yous at the beginning or the end of the phone conversation, but publicly I want to tell you I love you, buddy. Thank you.
Last but not least, I would like to introduce Andrea Hootie. Andrea also worked with Coach Martin, has gone on to be the very successful strength coach at the University of Kansas for the men's basketball team. Andrea?
Thank you. I'd like to thank the NSCA for recognizing my mentor and solidifying his legacy in the field of strength and conditioning by honoring him with a scholarship in his name. The scholarship is the Jerry Martin Scholarship Fund. I think you guys have probably seen the t-shirts downstairs that are for sale. You know, I encourage everybody to hopefully either donate to that scholarship fund, because the benefits will just go into the future of strength and conditioning. I'd like to welcome his family of mine. His brothers and sisters, his wife Diane, a great friend of mine, his children Christine and Rachel. I'd like to thank Beth Mason for the wonderful video that she put together there. That was unbelievable. I don't know if there was a dry eye in here. Specifically to Lee Madden and Virginia Meyer for helping put this scholarship together. So I think it'll provide great opportunities for young strength coaches to hopefully live that legacy of Jerry Martin. Jerry gave me my first opportunity in 1995, and I worked alongside of him for 9.5 years. He's my mentor in coaching, but more importantly in life. He's an educator, a motivator, an innovator, and more importantly, a friend. He is a true professional, man of high integrity and regard. I'll just give you a little story. He was a strength coach that came to work every day with dress pants, button-up shirt, and a tie. I'd see him clean 300 pounds, and his tie would get caught in the bar. I've seen some other things too in terms of motivating the athletes. You know, it was back in the time we had some weight stack machines and selector eyes, and a kid was banging the weight, and he's like, "Control the weight, you gotta control the weight." And she was just tired, fatigued, she wasn't controlling the weight, and dang if he didn't stick his finger in the weight stack. And he goes, "Control the weight." And she slammed it down right on his finger. And he said, "That's my finger." He kept his finger there. So, you know, the stories, I could tell you a million of them. He set the standard for operations. He pushed not only the athletes, but our coaches and administration to become better. You know, he's influenced so many here. He's a large part of what the NSCA is about and what we strive to be as professionals. And I love the fact that he is finally being recognized for the great work and things that he and his family has sacrificed. He's my hero, and I love him. Thank you.
This time I'd like for Mike Catone from Gatorade to come up here. We've got Coach Epley and Dr. Fleck behind me as well. It's time. Coach Martin, come on up and accept this Lifetime Achievement Award.
Well, that video shows I had hair at one time. Good evening, Board of Directors, award recipients, and NSCA membership. I am humbled and also honored to be receiving the Poet Epley Lifetime Achievement Award. I want to thank my wife, Diane. Love you, babe. You know, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here today. To my family, who I'm very proud of, Christina, Rachel, and Adam, who work extremely hard and are making a difference in the world. To my Dr. Kramer, for being a mentor to me and also a good friend. To my siblings for their love and support, taking up 2 tables over there. Naturally, they are all better looking than I am. That's when Diane, my lovely wife, says, "Don't worry, Jerry, handsome is just a light switch away." That's why it's pretty dark in our house all the time. In life, it's funny how a simple yes or a no can change your life, a spouse, family, or a profession. 30 years ago, I was a graduate assistant in the exercise science department. And I went to the head football coach's office asking if I could work with the football team. I had some experience training from being a football player at Syracuse, and I was working on furthering my educational experience. He said yes, and that was the beginning of the strength conditioning program at UConn. Since the beginning, I have learned many things. Education. You have some of the top scientists in the world right here in this room. Take advantage of the research and create the best program possible. Passion. Have a passion for what you do. Create excitement and teamwork. Also, you can bring that passion home to your family and friends. Be excited for their successes, support them in their time of need. Balance. This is probably the hardest one. Can you exercise balance in your life? Know what the important things are in life. Sometimes when you are big and strong, it is hard to appreciate love and support because it may show a sign of weakness. That's terribly wrong. But I found out, you find out by accepting love and support from your family and friends only makes you stronger. You find the family and friends, divide the hardships, and multiply the good times. So I am honored to accept the Boyd Hepley Lifetime Achievement Award on behalf of all the interns, graduate assistants, full-time staff that have passed through UConn and left something behind to make the program better. Thank you very much.
One last footnote for Coach Martin. Coach Martin, Roger Marandino, and Andrea Hootie have all been named throughout their careers the NSCA College Strength and Conditioning Coach of the Year. It's a pretty good tree right there. Congratulations again, Coach. Well deserved. I'd like to thank the staff from the NSCA, and I think we all should. They did a marvelous job with this convention, this banquet tonight. They worked tirelessly to put all this on for all of you. Let's hear it again for all of our award winners tonight. Wonderful job, men and women. Great work done by all of you. I'd like to thank our great sponsors, Dymatize, EAS, GNC, Gatorade, Muscle Farm, and Under Armour for their continued support. And thank you for attending the 38th Annual NSCA National Conference and for being here this evening to recognize these dedicated professionals who've contributed significantly to the NSCA and to the field of strength and conditioning. Thank you so much. Next year's convention is in New Orleans. Have a great night.